Coming up on Carolina Week.
Some university classes now come with warning labels. What's behind this growing trend?
If you're tired of waiting to see a doctor, this brand new hospital could be what you're looking for.
Order a hot cup of change, how one coffee shop is leading the way with salaries. All that and more at Carolina Week
starts right now.
From the UNC School of Journalism and Mass Communication, covering Carolina in HD, this is Carolina Week.
The issue of sexual assault has taken center stage yet again. Good evening, I'm Sharon Nunn.
And I'm CB Cotton. The Association of American Universities surveyed students at 27 college campuses last spring about sexual assault and released that data earlier this week. UNC is one of those universities. Reporter Ben Smart joins us live in our studio to explain the findings about sexual assault at our university. Ben?
CB, the UNC sexual assault reports became public just 2 days ago. It's more than 100 pages long. 5,212 students completed the survey. That's about 18% of the student body. About 13% said they had been sexually assaulted during college. Now, sexual assault is a broad term ranging from any form of non-consensual sexual touching with or without clothes to penetration. And there was a huge difference by gender. About 1 in 4 female undergraduates reported being sexually assaulted, compared to just 1% of male undergraduates. Also, about 26% of undergrads who identify as another gender, including transgender, reported assaults. You might wonder what's behind the low reporting rates. Well, about 60% of females who responded said they felt the incident wasn't serious enough to report to authorities. CB?
Ben, tell me what university officials have said about this report.
Well, CB, they haven't said much. UNC posted a press release earlier this week where Chancellor Carol Folt echoed the seriousness of those findings. That press release also mentions the Sexual Misconduct Task Force. University officials were unable to answer our phone calls or emails asking for additional information. CB?
Ben Smart reporting live from our studio. Thanks, Ben.
A local woman survived a traumatizing attack, and her testimony led to a man being sentenced to life behind bars. Reporter Jacqueline Lee shows us just how his life and hers have changed since that moment.
He was going to rape me, but I didn't know if I was going to survive it.
It was a July 1984 night. 22-year-old Jennifer Thompson was sound asleep. Suddenly jolted awake, she felt a cold steel blade pressed against her throat. That night, an intruder raped Jennifer in this house, but she was determined not to forget her attacker.
I would look for anything that could be an identifier, like a scar or a tattoo or a piercing or something. And the other thing I decided was, if I live, I will see you rot in hell for what you're doing to me.
The police drew a composite sketch from what she remembered. A tip led them to Ronald Cotton.
I picked out Ronald Cotton in the photographic lineup, and the police looked at me and said, "Good job. That's who we thought it was."
A few days later, she picked Cotton again in the physical lineup.
How sure were you?
Positive. Yeah, positive.
Thompson testified and a judge sentenced Cotton to life in prison. But there was just one problem. It was the wrong man.
Jennifer got it wrong. I mean, the witness got it wrong. I mean, that happens sometimes.
Richard Rosen worked to prove Cotton's innocence. He said a witness getting it wrong is pretty common in the criminal justice system.
People make mistakes. There's this popular theory that eyewitness identification is like a snapshot. We know now from the science that memory does not act that way.
Studies show memory isn't accurate. The witness is already under a great deal of stress, and it increases significantly when you add a weapon. Even factors like lighting can change a suspect's appearance. In the end, DNA testing proved the real rapist was a man named Bobby Poole. Cotton was cleared.
You're walking out here today as a free man.
But not before losing 11 years of his life in prison.
On many levels, it was worse than my actual assault. Because my assault, I knew, was not my fault. But when the information came that I had made this mistake, that we had made this mistake, I couldn't disconnect that.
I reached out to Ronald, and although he was unwilling to speak on camera, he released this statement. You have to be slow and sure before you make your final decision on anyone due to the fact that it's someone's life you're dealing with. Perhaps what is most fascinating is he and Jennifer are good friends. I asked Jennifer how it was possible.
We knew that we had been victims. The system had failed us. Bobby Poole was a horrible human being, and Ronald knew in his heart that I had never intentionally, with malice, tried to hurt him.
Today, the pair travels across the country sharing the lessons they've learned. They speak about judicial reform, eyewitness identification, and most importantly, finding forgiveness. In Chapel Hill, I'm Jacqueline Lee reporting.
Eyewitness misidentification makes up 70% of the convictions overturned through DNA testing.
Should students be warned if sensitive subjects will be discussed in class? These trigger warnings could be as simple as a note on the syllabus or an announcement before class. Paris Alston is live in our satellite studio with more. Paris?
Yes, CB, some professors think trigger warnings are a great idea, but some think they could be harmful to students and professors.
Allison Helms is a junior at UNC. Since the start of the year, she's been recovering from something she never saw coming.
Last January, I was sexually assaulted on campus by a fellow student.
School hasn't been much of a struggle, but she still has her concerns when it comes to discussing sexual assault in the classroom.
I never know where my professors stand with sexual assault, if they'll understand what I'm going through.
Like Helms, I could be a student who's been sexually assaulted, a member of a minority group, or someone who suffers from a mental illness. But my professor may not realize how touchy material could affect me.
Todd Taylor teaches a documentary filmmaking class at UNC. He warns his students before showing Boys Don't Cry, a film with a rape scene too graphic to show here.
You sort of become aware that there are students who've had traumatic experiences, and you don't want that to suddenly surprise them.
Taylor adds that excessive trigger warnings could prevent students from dealing with challenging topics they might experience outside of the classroom. PhD student Brooks Fuller, who studies harmful and free speech, says some professors might feel censored if required to offer trigger warnings.
Students and teachers should be able to meet one another in the classroom on their own terms rather than having requirements imposed upon them about how discussion's going to go.
Helms has some advice for professors who might question the place of the warnings in the classroom.
Try to empathize with your students as much as possible. It may not make sense to you, but at the end of the day, it can really mean a lot to the person on the other side, and it's worth it.
The Department of Public Policy is developing a plan for issuing trigger warnings to students.
That's Paris Alston live in our satellite studio. Thanks, Paris.
This month marks the 14th anniversary of 9/11. To remember the events of that tragic day, some Chapel Hill locals took a tour of the 9/11 Never Forget mobile exhibit. The event attracted Chapel Hill students, residents, and firefighters. The exhibit featured artifacts from the World Trade Center and first responders at the scene. Retired New York City firefighters who served during 9/11 or at Ground Zero conducted those tours. At the end of the tour, participants got information about a foundation which honors first responders and gives first aid to critically injured service members. The exhibit was hosted by the UNC College Republicans.
Art can take many forms and can help in the healing process. Combat Paper Project takes worn military uniforms and turns them into a canvas, giving students and military members the chance to create art as therapy, using the process of paper making to break down uniforms. The founder encourages others to design their own artwork, often featuring military subjects. The goal? To open dialogue about the armed forces between civilians and veterans. In the medical facility for treatment of a minor injury?
A short drive might save you a lot of time. Find out how coming up next.
Sprained ankles, broken bones, and stomach pains are just a few of the reasons you might take a trip to the ER. The long wait times can be enough to drive anyone crazy.
But there's a new option for area residents. Reporter Bailey Pennington explains.
No one wants to be admitted to the hospital, but accidents happen, like broken fingers.
My finger got crushed, and it broke right under my nail bed.
This minor injury turned into a major wait time.
They were pretty quick about getting my x-ray, but then for the results to come back, we fell asleep because we were waiting for so long.
A 20-minute drive down the road would have made a big difference. UNC Hospital's Hillsborough campus recently opened and is available to students, and it offers significantly shorter wait times.
Right now, you're going immediately back to a room. so you're not waiting. So you're getting in the room in under 15 minutes. You're seeing the physician in about 15 minutes.
The Hillsborough Hospital opened in July, but won't be fully operational until October. So far, the emergency department has helped 2,000 people.
If a student is looking for a place to access care, then we're a good place because we can be very timely.
UNC's main campus hospital has a capacity of 800 beds and many specialized departments like children's and cancer centers, with paid parking garages across and down the street.
The Hillsborough campus has the same general facilities on a smaller scale, with free parking right at the door.
If you've broken your finger or sprained your ankle, you're going to get in and out a lot faster here than at the main campus. And the more that we have those kind of patients come here and use us, then there's going to be less demand for the services at the main campus, so that emergency department can focus on the heart attacks and the traumas that they do so well.
If it's only 20 minutes away and it's closer, I think it's like definitely a good resource for students. Yeah, I had no idea that that was even an option. I probably would have gone there.
Now McIntosh and her fellow students have a choice. In Hillsborough, I'm Bailey Pennington reporting.
Currently, there are plans for a campus shuttle, but students right now have to drive to that Hillsborough location. One more child now has access to sound thanks to the UNC Medical Center. That's 1-year-old Tatum Lanier hearing his brother's voice for the first time. Lanier is the 1,000th child to receive cochlear implants at the UNC Medical Center. The implants do not restore hearing, but rather are tools that give access to sound. This will help children learn to listen and talk. The UNC Medical Center performed its first procedure in 1993.
Those who knew him best say Jason Ray grabbed life by the horns. Now 8 years after his death, Maddie Gardner shows us how his family is working to keep his memory alive.
Jason Ray was many things.
When he came in, he was so proud of himself. He flipped that driver's license down and he said, "Mother, look at this."
He was the lead singer in his band.
I saw the red heart.
He was Ramesses, the UNC mascot.
He explained to me that he didn't want to die, but if he did, and there was nothing we could do.
And he was an organ donor, which is what makes his mother, Charlotte, most proud.
Don't bury him with anything that would help anybody else.
Jason died on March 24th, 2007. As he walked to grab dinner before a men's basketball Sweet 16 matchup in New Jersey, a car hit him, fracturing his skull and causing major brain injuries. Underneath the fursuit and larger-than-life personality, Jason had a heart of gold, a heart that still beats, now in someone else's chest.
Mr. Griffin got his heart, David Irving got a kidney and a pancreas, Antoine got a kidney, and Dennis Scorzelius got his liver.
And they're Carolina fans now.
I hope they are. I hope they are.
Even today, Jason's mark on campus is undeniable. Every year, the Jason Ray Foundation donates to UNC Hospital's Transplant Centers Foundation. And now a new addition will bear his name, the Jason Ray Transplant Clinic. 8 years later, the student in the suit continues to make a difference.
I'm just so proud of him. My eyes still sparkle. And I don't want him to ever be forgotten.
It's unlikely that will happen. In Chapel Hill, I'm Maddie Gardner, reporting.
The Jason Ray Foundation has pledged $1 million to UNC's Transplant Center. On Sunday, the foundation held its annual event at the Friday Center. People watched video of Jason, bid on silent auction items, and registered for a live auction. Big ticket items included a football signed by the Carolina team and basketballs autographed by Roy Williams. Jason's mother greeted guests and thanked them for contributing to the foundation. Starting today, fall is here.
Are you ready for cooler temperatures? David Dixon has our forecast.
Welcome back to Carolina Week. I'm meteorologist David Dixon. Happy fall to you. It's actually the start of fall today. For most of us, we meteorologists like to be a little bit different. We call meteorological fall the start of the month. So it's actually been about 3 weeks of fall for us. And for everyone else, we call it the astronomical fall. And that means is there's equal parts daytime and nighttime at the equator. So slowly but surely, after today, there's going to be more nighttime than there is daytime. And look at the temperatures between our fall and your fall. It really makes a huge difference. 94 degrees for a high and 77. So fall is finally here. Cool and comfortable temperatures. Mostly cloudy skies, though. You can see most of North Carolina just swashed in clouds, and more clouds and rain is to come this weekend, so be sure to bring an umbrella or a sweater because it's finally sweater weather. And you can just see these clouds, part of a larger system that you're going to see this weekend. This is actually a low pressure system right off the coast of South Carolina, and this is going to bring quite a wet weekend for most of us. So if you're going to the family football game on Saturday, be sure to pack an umbrella because this is slowly going to move its way up North Carolina's coast and bring rain starting overnight tonight. Just bits and sprinkles here and there, but much more widespread rain to come this weekend. And it can be heavy in parts, along with this pretty breezy wind to go with it. You can see a rotation around it in that way, and you're going to see quite some heavy wind later this week. But for tonight, mostly cloudy and cool, patches of rain here and there as that low pressure system makes its way. Very cool temperatures in the 60s. I'm not seeing 90s anywhere for the coming forecast. And if you're going to class tomorrow, which I hope you will, mostly cloudy skies by the morning, rain in the late afternoon and into the early evening. So before you leave, you're going to want to bring two things: a sweater, because it's obviously fairly cold throughout most of the day, and a rain jacket or an umbrella, because it's going to rain starting at noon and into the late evening. But by tomorrow night, cool and cloudy temperatures, and you might want to break out the blankets because it's going to hit almost the 50s. 60 degrees, and like I said, it's going to be fairly breezy over the next couple days. So if you're going to the game on Saturday, or any activity this weekend, be sure to bring an umbrella or some jackets. And let's look at the 5-day forecast for you. You can see 50% chance of rain for the next couple days, but cool temperatures. I think we're actually going to make it into the 50s on Saturday, and then a slight break in the clouds starting on Monday with cooler temperatures throughout honestly the entire week, with low temperatures in the 60s. And I think it's going to be an absolutely fantastic weekend if you like fall temperatures, but the rain is going to be a little bit bad.
David, you're speaking my language. I love cool weather. I'm so tired of this heat. All I want to do is put on a scarf, drink hot chocolate, coffee, hats. I'm tired of the heat. I'm so ready for these fall weather.
Or a pumpkin spice latte, because now it's finally in season.
Thanks, David.
Thanks.
When we come back,
we'll take a look at football and, well, football to see if the Heels can keep up with their winning ways.
Welcome back to Carolina Week. I'm Kendra Douglas with sports. After a big win against number 2 Notre Dame last weekend, the men's soccer team was back in action Monday night against North Florida. After a slow start, the Heels opened up the scoring in the second half when Alan Wynn crossed the ball to Omar Holness, and all he had to do was tap it in to put Carolina up 1-0. But the lead didn't last long. North Florida's Alex Morrell beat the Carolina defense 7 minutes later to tie the game 1-1. In the 82nd minute, Tucker Hume corralled a high pass and sent a left-foot laser to the back of the net for the game winner. Heels win 2-1. For anybody looking to pitch a fit this weekend, arch rival Duke comes to town Friday night for a men's soccer showdown. The Blue Devils are still looking for their first conference win of the season. The Tar Heels are looking to keep an undefeated season alive. UNC has moved up to number 2 in the nation, and you know Duke would love nothing more than to spoil that for Carolina. After a sophomore season that saw Ryan Switzer struggle for success, the junior receiver finally found the end zone on Saturday and appears to have his swagger back.
Yeah, it felt good. I can't lie. I felt like a lot of weight was lifted off of my shoulders. It was a pretty surreal moment. It felt like the first time I'd ever returned one, to be honest with you. So I got a big hug from Coach Fedora and Coach Brewer on the sidelines. So we kind of did it. We got back to our 2013 form, and I think all of us are excited to see what we can do from here on out.
The Heels will face their second feathered mascot on Saturday, playing Delaware Fightin' Blue Hens, and the fans hope they won't chicken out on this one. Delaware is 1-2 this season, but just because the Hens are in the FCS doesn't mean we should get cocky. The football program has won 6 FCS national championships and made it to the finals in 2007 and 2010. One notable Fightin' Blue Hen alum is the Ravens quarterback, Joe Flacco. The verdict is still out whether or not he's elite. Despite big wins against Illinois, quarterback Marquise Williams wants to make sure he doesn't fall against Delaware.
I came in the cafeteria and I heard some of the freshmen was like, man, we're going to be able to play. You know, these guys are not even better than A&T. And just when I stopped them, I say, did you see Ohio State's game this past weekend? They only won 20-13. I mean, it doesn't matter who you play that weekend. Saturdays are upset days.
Now, ladies, we've already won 2 of our home games. I'm looking for a third win, 3 for 3 over here.
Well, yeah, I've heard Delaware is a relatively good team for us to play, so I'm looking forward to seeing it on Saturday.
Well, I'll be honest, I don't know much about Delaware, but I know that we better win. I have family coming, so my boys have to pull through.
We have to show out.
Thanks, Kendra. And up next, we'll talk about how one Chapel Hill organization is helping to boost workers' confidence and their wages.
Chapel Hill finally... Chapel Hill has plenty of wealthy residents, we all know that, and others trying to eke out a living, and a new group in North Orange County is trying to narrow that gap.
Single, skim, cappuccino.
Nicole Dutram is a manager at Joe Van Gogh.
Which one do you need?
She's an expert in all things lattes, sparkling drinks, and just plain coffee. That espresso expertise gets her $13.50 an hour, plus tips. Joe Van Gogh also offers health insurance and a 401k plan.
Here, especially, I feel like my wage supports my life and makes me feel like I'm not worrying constantly.
Joe Van Gogh is certified by the Orange County Living Wage, a new organization to Chapel Hill that recognizes companies that pay their employees what its leaders consider a living wage. Chair Susan Romaine says they're hoping to officially launch at the end of October, and they've certified at least 22 businesses.
That means they're paying a living wage that's either $12.75 an hour, or if the employer is paying health insurance, then the living wage would be $11.25 an hour.
Joe Van Gogh and its owner, Robbie Roberts, qualify completely. Back at his roastery in Hillsboro, where the coffee is made, packaged, and shipped, Roberts says he didn't do anything to get certified. His coffee business already qualified for the Living Wage Project.
We never built the business around the idea of paying people the lowest price possible.
That price is both a blessing to Nicole and what Orange County living wage leaders hope people in Chapel Hill will consider.
Being more aware when you walk through that door, is that a living wage employer? And thinking, if I've got another choice, should I try to support them even though it's 2-3 blocks out of my way?
And Nicole, she gets to do what she loves at a business that allows her to live comfortably.
It makes me feel like a person. It makes me feel like somebody who matters. And I really appreciate that.
Her pay rate could spread to other businesses because of the certification and the example Joe Van Gogh is setting. County living wage leaders plan to create an app you can use to find businesses that pay their employees a living wage.
You know, I can really stand behind these people. Great organization, great purpose.
Yeah,
definitely. That does it for this edition of Carolina Week.
Thanks for watching and have a wonderful night.